lately there has been a revelation from a whistleblower, a person working for IEBC, and was very interested in the process, courtesy of his position within the electoral body. And he has brought forth very startling documents to the effect that what we believed then, that the election was muddied and was compromised by Chebukati and company, is now coming to light. And the question that people would ask is, why couldn't he present it at the Supreme Court? Now, that could have been the ideal thing to do. But you also have to remember that analyzing evidence to secure a warrant or to corroborate witness statement is usually time and human intensive. And our Constitution has given a very deliberate, yet a very short amount of time upon which one needs to file a petition before the Supreme Court. So whereas the whistleblower could have had this prior information, it also takes a lot of time to even gather that degree of evidence and to present it to a party that is going to the Supreme Court. So we cannot therefore fault the whistleblower that he has been sitting on evidence. Sitting from where? This is a process that had to take a substantial amount of time. And we in Azimio also had to take equal amount of time to go through that evidence. For you to see Baba coming out to speak over a matter, that issue has already been properly analyzed, it has been corroborated, and therefore capable of standing trial. Now, the Supreme Court is already gone.
Yeah.
Unless, under very strenuous circumstances, would you have a Supreme Court reviewing its own decision on a matter such as this. Their regulations give them that latitude, together with the Supreme Court Act to Part 11.
Yeah.
So we are not going to go that direction. But what we are saying is these revelations that have not been controverted up to now, and that therefore feeds into their integrity and how genuine this kind of revelation is. So what we are saying is, why can't Kenyans know that this is exactly what happened? Whereas we went to the Supreme Court with what we had at that time, these are additional information that is coming to the fore so that we can be vindicated.
Yeah. But many people say, Jared, that this is not the first time you're rejecting election results. This happened in the Moi regime, it happened in the Kibaki regime, it happened in the Uhuru regime, it's now happening in the Ruto regime. And people say this is commonplace for the opposition. It's the same thing you say over and over again. What do you say to the people who think it's starting to sound like a broken record?
What people are simply saying is that election will be stolen. What you are required is to accept and move on.
Are you then saying that all this time election has always been stolen?
Every time we have raised pertinent issues around elections, we have always provided evidence. Because what people would ask is, where is your evidence? In the year 1997, when Raila first reigned to become the president of the Republic of Kenya, he became number 3 in that election. Matiba was number 2. Former late President Kibaki was former President Kibaki was number 2 and Raila was number 3. I do not know whether there was rejection of that result at that time, but I do know that there was serious rejection of results in the year 2007. Because in 2002, when Raila said Kibaki tosha, Kibaki defeated Uhuru by such a huge margin. And Uhuru came to actually accept defeat as a gentleman that he raised up to now. And thereafter, there wasn't any furor around that election. So in 2007, that election was heavily compromised. The international community said as much. The observer missions said as much. And therefore, we cannot therefore say that it was wrong for Raila to say in 2007 that his election was stolen. In any event, Kibaki's party then, I think that was TNA, no, not TNA, but DP had a coalition with certain political parties. They only had like 43 members of parliament against over 100 from Raila's political party. So that was an issue to buttress the mere fact that Raila actually won. Okay. Of course, with the intervention of the international community, there was a coalition government when Raila became the prime minister and Kibaki retained his position.
Is that the end game with now, the pressure president that is on?
Now, you also have to understand that things have changed. Yeah. There is a lot of dynamism in politics. In 2007, there was violence across the country. And to stop that violence, power sharing formula was crafted not by Kenyans, but we were pushed by the international community through the involvement of Kofi Annan, the late, who came here, brought the two warring factions together, and came up with a compromise. Okay. So that was then. In 2013, you know, we had a similar problem. There was violence in certain parts of the country, but Raila said, let Uhuru continue with his term. And in 2017, Raila again, as a candidate, went into that election. Whereas people fought in certain parts of the country, he reached out to his brother, President Uhuru Kenyatta, to bring about peace and not to share government. You have to recognize that even though there was a handshake in March of 2018, not a single person from Raila's coterie joined government. He just said, you run your government, we are restoring peace in this country, and let us work together for the common good of our country.